Ma'am.
Okay, a very warm welcome to all of you. Very good afternoon and good evening to all my students who've joined here. In today's class, we would learn about the importance of writing. In the last class, we explored the metal insets and you submitted your wonderful Montessori lessons using this tool of metal insets wherein children could develop on the fine motor skills, right? So that was one of the exercise that we saw to improve the fine motor skills and the hand control of children. So there were a couple of other exercises that we actually saw was like, we had a lot of insets. The insets were squares. We saw an inset of triangle. We saw circle. Then what else? Rectangle, oval, trapezoid, pentagon, curvilinear triangle, and quatrefoil. These were the shapes that we actually had it, right? And we saw the wooden insets in the geometric cabinet tray. And to support with that, we also took a lot of colored pencils and we put all those pencils in the pencil holders. And then we also had another tray wherein we had the papers, which was of the same size of our frame. Correct? So from there, the child had to pick a particular paper just to guide with the writing instrument. We gave them the piece of paper and the child could pick any of the pencil of their interest and then the child will have to trace it. Now, what was the area of interest? Was like, how is the child's movement involved in this particular work is something that we were seeing. Is the child doing it with the right pressure? Is the child tracing every of the shape with the right direction? What was the control of movement? Was the pencil at the edge of the frame or at the inset? Now, this actually helped the child to even make a steady stroke. This was our point of interest. So, to support with this as teachers, we gave them a lot of presentations, correct? The first presentation started with double outline. We did a double outline. And then what did we do? We did a double outline and then we colored it. We filled in. Yes, when we were filled in, we also saw multiple stages. Lines were far, lines were close. Sometimes we also completely filled in. Then from there, we got into applying the dark pressure and the light pressure. From there, we took two contrasting figures. So when they were contrasting figures, we had to choose contrasting pencils also. And then we took multiple pencils, multiple ways. Then we took three figures, three pencils, three figures, three ways. And then the teacher had gone beyond in giving them different kinds of patterns. Now, why was that so important for us? Only thing is like we wanted the child to get prepared for the writing ability. So this was one of the pre-writing essential material that we actually did it. Okay, so it is also considered to be as one of the pre-writing material to work on the child's fine motor skills. Correct? Now, as and when the teacher was also teaching the children to draw or trace this thing, she was continuously talking. So indirectly, the child also worked upon enhancing the communication skills about the shapes, about the pressure, how to do it, directional wise, right? The child also learned about the communication skills. The child also was looking and tracing. So what do you think? Fine motor skill was also there. Hand-eye coordination was also there. The more better motor control, the child could strengthen the memory. The cognitive ability was becoming better. And since you asked them to fill of their own patterns and other things, the child could actually express their own creativity. So they were more self-expressive in that way. So this was one of such an engaging exercise that you could actually work in your classes. So this was the last class. And many of you submitted your assignments. That's absolutely good enough. For somebody, I have also told them to redo it. But today we would do a little bit more on why writing is so important for us and what is the necessity or the importance of writing in our classes. Now, first of all, whenever you want to write, you need to have the dexterity, correct? So what is dexterity? You need to have the pressure. You need to control the pencil. You need to grasp the pencil. You need to hold the pencil properly and you have to write. Now, again, when you want to write, the teacher has to check whether you are a left-handed or a right-handed. So every time that the child has been given a particular exercise, what is expected from a teacher is to find out the dexterity of a child. Is my child a left-handed child or a right-handed child? Based on that, you can actually give them the possible activities to help them to start working on writing part of it. Now, for writing, don't you think I need to also have my intellectual process? Because whatever I have it in my mind is what I'm expressing on paper, correct? So I should have that processing ability of what I have to write. If I have to write letter A, in my mind, I should know how to write a letter A. That is the thing that is getting onto my paper. So that symbolic representation will be represented in my paper also. So this is what we as teachers will have to prepare for a child. And once the child learns all the components of what is the sound of a letter, how a letter looks like, when a teacher is saying me the sound of a letter or the name of a letter, how should I write it together? That, if the child is able to process, that's called the explosive phenomenon in Montessori. Okay, now this is what we will have to be reaching. Now, how do you teach writing to the children is the next important part of it. Please write down. The first thing how you're going to be writing is the environment. Okay, so what you do, because the children of 3 to 6 years, very sensitive periods, when would you introduce writing to children? As soon as they're able to pick up the pencil, the grip is really good enough, maybe 3.5 years. So don't you think it is a very sensitive period for your child? Definitely yes. So what do I do at that particular time? I will start with helping them write with the strokes. I teach them the strokes, how to join dots, how to make a straight line or a slanting line or a curved line or patterns with particular curves is what I'm going to be working. Then is what I will teach them the order of writing. Like two lines combining together can make up a particular letter. I'll teach them the order of how to construct it. When I'm trying to put them in order, I would also give them the directions, how I need to be writing, what is the direction. So first I make a slanting, then another slanting, then a sleeping line makes a letter A. So I give them the order on which I have to be writing. Every time an order is being given, I would also say the sound that is represented by that particular letter. Now, this becomes the order or the structure of the language as a whole. Now, the child has learned the letter name, the child has learned the letter sound. This is the first thing. Clear, everybody? Okay, you have to work with the patterns, you have to work with the letter names and the sounds. By what year? 3.5 to 4 years, the child should be thorough with that. Now, what happens to get the experience of a classroom? Since you're all working as a Montessori teacher, to get a real-time experience in the classroom, you would also introduce a material called sandpaper letter or a sandy alphabet. So you would introduce that. Now, what happens there? The child gets the awareness of how to trace that particular letter. Okay, that's the first material that you're going to be working on. Now what I do, I have learned all the individual letters. Now I'm learning the blends. I'm putting 2-letter words and 3-letter words together. So whenever the child is getting into learning of words, we use another material called movable alphabets. Please note down, we use another material called movable alphabets. Now movable alphabets, what all can I write? I can write my symbols, individual letters. I can write my words. Then I write a phrase. What is a phrase? When I combine my article, that is a, an, and the. When I put my articles together to my noun, that becomes a phrase. Like say cat, I say a cat, the cat, apple, an apple. When I'm trying to use my article to my noun, that becomes the phrase. So using movable alphabet, I start constructing letters, words, phrases, sentences, and finally stories for children. Clear? Now, what happens when you're trying to work on all of that? The child is getting indirectly prepared to know how to make sentences, to give that word to word gap, and they start copying that into your books or the worksheets. So, this is the second thing that you're going to be using. The first one is letters, the letter names, and the sounds, along with the patterns. Second, in case of the child is not able to know how the construction of the letters is there, reinforce with sandpaper letter. Third, whenever your child is ready with everything, you give them the movable alphabet and you help them to write letters, words, phrases, sentences, and paragraphs. Okay? Now everything is done. Now still everything is not complete. You need to have that refinement of your senses, right? You have to learn through the sensory education. That is when you would help the child to move, to write. Okay? The flexibility of the hand is also important. Okay? Not every child is interested in writing. So you have to make a conscious attempt in making sure that writing exercises are a lot of fun. So that's when you can include pictures. Okay? You draw a picture and the child writes a picture name. Or you write a word and the child will start writing the picture accordingly. So the child will not realize that they're actually writing on paper. All these things are related to special writing in your classes. Okay. So the importance of drawing, the importance of special marks, the importance of including other objectives like maybe the cultures and other things will contribute to the desire of, yes, I want to write. That willingness has to come. So that's the reason we always call these as special writing. So my dear teachers, always include fun kind of writing exercises in your classes. That's very, very essential. Now, being a good teacher, what you need to always keep in mind is communication. Now, you need to give children that satisfaction. Okay, writing should never be like a burden. It should give that satisfaction for all of them. That means they have to learn the mastering of writing. It's just not the way that you show them the letters and the child will start writing. No, the child should master writing the letter in a particular stroke. If they're not able to do that, rewrite. Teach them again. It's okay even if you're taking few more days or few more weeks or even few more months. That's absolutely okay, because that is where the child is actually beginning to write. If you do not teach them the writing properly with the fullest developmental part of it, the child will never have satisfaction of writing. And that's the reason they would hate writing. Okay, if you're an LKG teacher, if you're a nursery teacher, if you're just beginning to introduce writing to the children, please make it a little bit more fun for your children, because they would start writing. They would start loving to write. And more importantly, after they know the strokes, after they have developed exercises to write properly, what's more important is not only writing, the writing has to be beautiful. The writing has to be legible. Somebody has to read what I have written. And the handwriting of every child should also be unique. You tell to every child, each one's handwriting can't be same. Every person's handwriting is unique. That's the reason in graphology, in graphotherapy, I myself am a handwriting analyst. In case if I take each one of your handwriting and if I analyze, I can tell about your personality 99% what you are. And that 1% of whatever here and there, it's like we're all human beings. We do make mistakes. Yes, there could be hidden talents and hidden things from each one of you, which you do not want to share in your writing. That does not happen. Okay. We try to take when you're in a good mood, when you're in a bad mood, we take two writing samples. We give you samples to write hundreds of lines. And based on that, we would be able to analyze your personality. And just imagine how could we predict so very well, because your lining, your stroke, your pressure, everything is based upon your personality. Okay, everything comes out of that. That's graphology. It's pseudoscience. Okay, we don't know how, but we would be able to predict everything with the help of your handwriting. Even your health. If you're having any pressure issues, your pressure points on letters would still be the same, irrespective of what pen you use. You use a gel pen, you use a ballpoint pen, you use a marker, whatever it is. A person who's got a pressure or any kind of an illness in the body will have pressure points in that particular letter at that particular point itself. You will break your writing there. Okay. Under microscopic, the visuals, we would be able to see, and you will be surprised to see that, yes, all my B's have struck over there. So you will have pressure points over there. And that could be one of the reasons that you will have it. So graphology is a huge, learnings which you can actually do it, because it can actually help you to work on your personality. That's the reason we don't conduct personality, we don't collect the samples of younger children, because their handwriting is still developing. And you would be able to analyze a person's writing only after the child is around 13 and 14 years of age, because that's when their handwriting becomes much more stable. And there's not much of chances that the writing is going to be changing at that particular time. But you can't do it for preschoolers, middle schoolers, because their writing keeps changing. From the split writing, they get into cursive, again, they get into italics writing, and the pressures changes, the speed at which the children write would all change. They wouldn't have that constant ability of their having their own handwriting. So that could be one of the reasons we always say to each one of your handwriting is very unique. And always make sure, whoever it is, whatever mood swings that you are in, write with your own handwriting, and it has to be legible and beautiful. Okay, that uniqueness will be fixed with the mechanics of how you write, how you teach the children to actually write, and that carries well to their adulthood. And that's when the personality preparations would also start, which many of them are not very much sure about it. So to work on this particular thing, students, what we need to be working is two preparations is what you need. You need to prepare for your hand and you need to prepare for your mind. So please note down, this is one of the very, very important topic that you actually get it. It's a for sure question every year that they have asked. How do you help the children to actually write? A very important question, I could say. Okay. So we work on two things. One is on the mind, one is on the body. Okay. So we need to work for preparation of writing. First, we will have to prepare the mind. Okay. And then is what you will be preparing your body. Okay. These are the two things that you're going to be working on. Now, say, suppose in case if I have to work on preparation of my mind, what is the thing that I have to start working? See, unless and until the child does not concentrate in my class, is it possible for me to give him any work? No, the child should concentrate first to sit down, pick a paper, and the child should willingly write whatever I'm giving. These are the most important thing. The will and the concentration of a child is very, very important for me. And the second thing is like, if the teacher does not have a plan, it doesn't work out. You give them the writing exercise today and tomorrow you don't give. Even the same thing happens at home also with parents. They don't follow a cycle of work. If you don't follow the cycle of work, it's very difficult for you to help psychologically to your child. Now your child knows, okay, it's 5 o'clock means my mother is going to make me write. If they're prepared with that, the child will start writing. So when you have the cycle of work and you teachers and parents, if you're following it, don't you think that we are working on the work habit? The child understands, yes, I have to do that. So we are trying to establish the work habit. From there, you're going to also teach them how to write. From which side are you going to be writing? You're going to be teaching them the techniques of how do you write. Correct? So how do we write? Usually we write from left to right. Correct? So we teach them from the book where to write. Left to right. So your mind is also oriented in such a way that, okay, I have to start from left and I have to go to the right. If I'm done with that line, I have to come back from the left. Otherwise, if you see, children will start writing from anywhere, from the middle of the page, from the end of the page, from the last page. You have to teach them where to start and where to end. Okay, order and sequence is also important. From where to where you have to write. How many times you will have to write. They have to write that way. Okay. Now, most importantly, your vocabulary is important. Okay. Okay. The feeling at which the teacher is teaching. You can't keep scolding the child before even you begin to write a lesson. The feelings of a teacher is important. The feeling of a parent is important. The tools that you give to your child to write is also important. Okay. Only then the child is able to function. So vocabulary is very, very enriching. I can say, Nisha, we're going to write a letter G today. And letter G is so easy. Just make a letter C, then take the stroke up, go to the right and get down. So that's how you make a letter G. And Nisha finds it so easy now. Now, what if I would have started scolding Gayatri? You don't know to write letter G. Yesterday itself I taught. And today you're not able to do it. The child would even stop to actually write the letter G. So your vocabulary is very, very important. Okay. So this is very important because the task for you is to make sure that the child writes it. The tools that you're going to be using, you can use anything. Make it fun. Today you give crayon. Tomorrow you give a sketch pen. Day after you give a marker. It's up to you. The tool that you give at the beginning. But at the same time, the functionality of that tool is still you're teaching the letter G. And what is the feeling that the child is getting? The child is experiencing different tools. Maybe the child is feeling happier. They painted the letter G. So the child is actually happier. Now, what about the mindset of the child? Writing is so cool. So the child is enjoying the writing. Now come to the other part of it. How do you prepare the body of the child? Okay, we are also preparing the body of the child, right? So body of the child, that means my hand of the child. Okay, it's not the body. I can put it as the hand of the child. Now what happens when I give them the pencil or the crayon? Don't you think that I'm working on the grip? So I will first check, is it a tripod grip? Is it a pincer grip? Is it a refined grip? Is it a hard grip? I'm going to be working on the grip. I'm going to only help the child to strengthen and refine the grip. Then slowly I will add the movements. When I say about the movements, how do I move my arm? Okay, how do I move my arm? How do I move my wrist? I can't take a longer movements. So I have to coordinate between my arm and the wrist movement in the smaller ways. So when I'm trying to work with that, Don't you think that I'm refining my hand movements? We very well refine our hand movements, and the child will start writing every letter in a very smaller way. Correct? So what about the hand-eye coordination? Again, it is becoming better. My hand and eye is coordinating very well. Okay, if the child does not able to see where to write, it is very difficult. That means the position of the paper is not right. The position at which if the child holds the pencil like this, tightly, very close to you, they can't see where to write. Have you noticed this in your classes? So hand-eye coordination is very, very important. And then you can actually work on it. So this is the direct effect of the mind and the body. Okay. Now we come down to, is there any other indirect advantages of doing these things? Now, indirectly, yes, I'm trying to work on the senses. I'm trying to work on the accuracy. Okay. If I make a mistake, the child will take an eraser and they will erase it and they will again compare. Okay, this is not the way, I have to erase it, and they have to write. So the child is now getting into the sense of accuracy. That's very good. Now the child also knows the order and sequence. After A, it is B. After B, it is C. They know about the order sequence. Even if I give them words like dog, they know it is after D, it is O. After O, it is G. So they know the order, they know the sequence. They're able to classify, they're able to organize. All this is there. But when it comes down to hand, stabilization is becoming better. If they're not able to work on that, the teacher gives them tools. Okay. Now, indirectly, if the child is not able to work on the hand movements, the teacher will now teach them other things. Like, she can give them exercises. Okay, let's trace the dots. Now she checks, okay, is the child able to move the hand within that specific things? And then she teaches them how to hold the pencil. Lightness, how lightly can you hold the pencil? Okay, it should be held like a stylus. The teacher tells them, okay, hold it very lightly. Don't hold it too strong. She teaches them that. If still the child is not able to hold them, she teaches them about the 3-finger grip. She teaches them the 3-finger grip. Still the child is not able to do, maybe she can give them some other kind of molding exercises. Like, she can give them the clay molding, wherein the child can actually start working on rolling the clay, or pinching the clay, or modeling the clay. The child will get a lot of strengthening exercises to their hands. This is again important for us if the child is unable to work on it. So these are something that the teacher is actually working on it. Okay. So you're working on the body again or on the hand using the tools. Now, don't you think every time that we are doing, we're also working on the language part? Yeah, we are also working on the language. The teacher is speaking. The clarity, the speech, the way that the teacher is expressing a particular word, the child is becoming aware of all of that. And slowly the structure of the language is becoming better. And the child is also experiencing literature. So they become confident speakers then. So this is all indirectly which is actually happening. Clear, everybody? Now, directly, what do I teach in language? I teach them the sounds, I teach them the letters, I teach them how to work on it. And what are the materials I use in my Montessori? I use my sandpaper letters. I use my movable letters. We use these materials. And slowly, to analyze the words, we use a lot of other word cards. We place the symbols in order. We align the letters. If I have to separate the words by any spaces, I do separate the words. Only then the child is able to read very well, correct? So all these things will become my mind preparation or my hand preparations. So whatever could be the tools that I have to use it, I will use it so that the child knows how to hold a pencil, how to move a pencil, how to make up and down strokes, how to go from left to right, how to control my pressure, when to stop my writing, when to start my writing, when to make a continuous stroke, when to make a retrace, or when to relax my hand. Now you're able to get me? So every letter has got so many things which is very, very essential for us. So whenever you're using the writing instruments, you need to work on all of that. What are the ones? How do I control the pressure? The child should know how much of a, please write down, I don't have space. Please write down whenever you're using to use the writing instrument. What's a writing instrument for the child? Pencil, pen, crayon. That's all. So using that, the first thing is they need to know to control their pressure. Second thing, they have to know how to hold a pencil. Third, they have to know how to move a pencil. When they are moving a pencil, they need to know how to make up and down strokes. They need to know how to go from left to right while coloring. They need to know when to stop, when to start the stroke again. They need to also know how to make a continuous stroke. For example, see, this is a continuous stroke, right? So I'm not stopping only. It is a continuous stroke. What if I'm taking like this? See, it's up, then again it's down. I'm stopping, then I'm doing it. So I should know when to start, when to stop, and when to continue the stroke. I need to also know when to relax my hand. See, I have to relax my hand, only then I have to make this. But if the pattern is like this, I'm not relaxing my hand only. I'm continuously moving, right? So we are stopping here and then we relax. If it's letter A, we make a stroke, we come down, we go up, we don't stop, we retrace, we stop. So these are the things that we need to be making it up. When to stop, when to start, when to make continuous strokes, when to relax your arm. Okay, how to work in that space. It's very essential, guys, especially when it comes down to writing, how to work within the particular given space between the two lines or the top line or the bottom line. How do you twist your pencil? Okay, how your wrist will guide the pencil to turn. Your wrist movements are very, very essential. So always start with a lot of wrist exercises for your children. And that's what is going to be making a little bit more easier for you. Okay, so this becomes the introductory part of your writing, wherein we need to understand why writing is essential, how the mind and hand is prepared very much well in advance before you even start with writing exercises for your children. Is the
Uh,
topic clear?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
One question.
Yes.
You were mentioning about the pressure of the writing, no? Pressure of using the pencil. So, how can we teach that one to the child?
How do we work on the pressure?
Pressure, yeah.
Okay. Pressure of the child. Can you repeat it?
How do we work on the pressure of the pencil? How we can explain to them this much pressure only you're supposed to give? It's the child should not give over. He should not stress on over pressurization, or it should not be very light way of writing. So how we can explain the child that they have to use the proper pressure on that writing board?
Okay. Wonderful question. Okay, for this, we initially for the younger kids, they do not know much about how much of a pressure that they have to be applying. So what we generally concentrate is we don't work on applying too much of a pressure, but what we always make sure is the pencil that you give it to the child has already got a better uh, smooth finish. It's extra dark. Okay,
Extra.
so
Okay.
you can always start with an extra dark pencil so that there's not much of a pressure that the child will have to be putting it. The second thing that you need to be working over here is like on the tip of the pencil. The tip of the pencil, in case if it's sharpened too much, it frequently breaks. So
Yes.
as teacher, you need to also ensure the tip of the this thing is not too sharp. If it is
Okay.
too sharp, what happens? It becomes very difficult for a child to apply pressure also. There could be a possibility of a paper to break or tear if the tip is too sharp. These are the two things that we would avoid at the beginning. And then you can start working on whether the writing is appearing dark or deep. We're not worried about deep writing here for the younger kids. We want them to, the writing has to be dark, right? So if it has to be a little bit more deeper, if I have to press a little bit more deeper, the child will start complaining about the hand pain. And sometimes they also say, it's painting a lot, other things. This is one thing. So we don't want the too hard kind of writing, neither we don't want too light kind of a writing. So the writing can't be too faint and it's too hard to see, or sometimes even the letters, no, whatever that they write, it's too shaky, I feel. Then the pressure is not correct. Even if you ask them to write a straight line, the child would not be able to do that. So you will start to understand the light pressure would happen most of the time only if the child is struggling to keep the grip on the pencil. So for them, we always encourage you to give a pet pencil. Pet pencils will be directly only a very tiny ones, okay? So if any pencil, if you're taking this part of the pencil, can you see me, everybody?
Um, just a minute. Yes.
I'm going to spotlight for everyone. Okay. So if at all, if I'm holding a pencil like this, can you see this portion is too long? Can you see me, my pen?
Ma'am, I cannot see you.
Now can you see me?
Yeah, now I can
Yeah.
see.
Now, if at all, if I'm holding a pencil like this, so since I've got only these three fingers, so
Okay.
what is the first important for us is like we teach them this particular grip. If the child is holding it this way, it's a hard grip, is what we actually call. If the child is holding it like this within the thumb and this one, it's called a sculptor's grip. So there are less chances for a child to do mistakes because the movements are very limited here. Even you can try so. Some of the children have developed this kind of writing. If you notice their handwriting, it's going to be having a very smooth finish. Most of the sculptors, they use this particular grip because the possibility of they doing mistakes is very less. But eventually, we would want a child, this would actually pain a lot. Your thumb would be pained a lot in case if you're stressing it on it. And we don't want the child to hold on to this particular portion, the sharper portion, the coned portion of the pencil too. If you're holding it very closely, thinking you're going to apply a lot of pressure, it doesn't going to work out. Only thing is like your fingers will start to pain a lot. So teach them to hold it in a stylish way and let them start writing. If the pencil is of a good quality and an extra dark pencil at the beginning, it becomes easy for them to apply the pressure. That's one way. The second thing, if the child is not able to carry such a long weight, you also get pet pencils in the market, which would only be almost an inch above this knuckled point. It has to be only a 1 inch longer than that. The pencil is also lighter and the child will be able to hold it and write. If it's too long for the tiny hands, they find it difficult also to write. These are two of the things that you can actually start working it. Okay. And if they're still not able to work on that, then again, strengthening hand muscles, correcting the pencil grips through postures like relaxed hand postures. And sometimes even children's hands are sweaty. Okay. So you can also ask them to relax a bit and then they can start working on it. You start
Sure.
with chalkboards. Okay. Pressures, yes. You can always work on that.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Any more questions on this particular topic? This holds a lot of observation actually. The writing part is very, very important. And in case if you notice on the writing part of it, we always start with what? We always start with scribbling. So scribbles get into writing. Now say suppose in case if I'm giving them an object for the child to write. Okay, say suppose in case if I give them circle to write. Initial scribbles could be like this. You see what is the kind of a stroke? Is it a continuous stroke? Or is the child scribbling like this? See, there's so much of the pressure which is actually there, but there are slanting lines on this. Now, again, you see if there are slanting lines and there are curved lines. You see on the continuous part of it, how is the child coloring? So it's always up and down. Now, there could be a possibility some children are scribbling this way. So there is a right to left direction, left to right direction. All these are scribbles. If a child has got the continuous lines like this in the scribble, that means that's the closest to the coloring part of it. And you teach them to color. Okay, so they can do a lot of coloring portions like this and let them try to fill in the entire page, which comes down to the closest of my coloring. This is also one of the art technique that you can do using in your coloring classes. From there, you put them onto directions. You teach them, okay, left to right, left to right, left to right is what the child will have to do. But now, even if this is not complete, is also okay. But the child is doing left to right directions. What are the other things to overcome here? The child is trying to color it outside. That's when you give them that finger. The child will hold on to the paper and then you color. So this doesn't come out of it. Then you can teach them to color top to bottom. Then is what the child will go according to the image and they start coloring according to the image on the directional coloring. So from scribbles, you move to your coloring. That's the first stage of pre-writing essentials. So every scribble has a story to tell. Every scribble, you ask the children what they have scribbled. They will definitely share a story to you. Okay. So that's something that which is there. So that again reminds me of one of the story like that. So when there was a drawing competition, and I think this was like 6, 7 years back, and the child had drawn, and then the theme was birthday party. And the child has drawn a river, a lake, a boat, a dinosaur, a forest, many things like that. And there were all those vegetables, tomatoes and all of that, which was actually kept. And then when I was collecting the paper, I said the theme was on birthday, but what have you drawn? And she said, it's a birthday party, ma'am. They're all coming to the birthday party. It's happening on the shore of this particular river. It's a birthday party. I said, okay, fine. What about the balloons? The balloons look like these animals. These are all the animal balloons, ma'am. I said, okay, what about the eatables? They said, my ma'am, in the EVS period, she said, you can't eat junk, you can't eat this. So that's the reason we have kept all vegetables for the snacks. Just imagine, what if I wouldn't have heard the story? The teacher would have blindly thought the child is not colored or drawn according to the theme. So always listen to the story. There's a different story. That story I can still not remove from my mind. It is still so fresh. I've forgotten the name of the child, but I can still remember the face of that particular student with so much of spark in her eyes. She was explaining this is what it is. And I was like, where are you? You are not there in the picture. Every others are